And I just want to say it's an honor today to bring AXS Lab to Google and their featured project, AXS Map. And it's really about taking this idea of accessibility and going out into the world and how do we make this a more inclusionary environment. And with that, I actually want to give a quick introduction for each of our guests today. First, I'll actually introduce Jason. He's the founder of AXS Lab. He's also a director. Even before this project, some of his work has been featured at Sundance and HBO and PBS. He is the founder and the kind of president of this initiative. And Alice is our executive director. She graduated from Stanford in environmental engineering with a master's and has been just doing great work ever since and really keeps the ship afloat here. And then their newest member today, Kevin Bluer. He has been in mobile web development for 10 years and is just a serial entrepreneur, and we're lucky to have him as part of this team. So as a little bit of background, I was introduced to these folks in early 2011 in New York City as part of a technical incubator. And what I've loved to and responded immediately to this team is this is a team that's taking data and maps and combining it with storytelling. And that is an incredibly powerful combination. And they're using this together to really try to make a difference in the world. So I'm honored to bring them here today so you can hear their story, their journey, and see some of their initial results. And I'm also happy to note that they are in part funded by Sundance and other groups, but also Google and the Google Earth Outreach Developer Grant as well. So with that, give them a round of applause, and we'll turn over the mic.
Thanks, Eric. So my name is Jason Da Silva. I'm the creator of AXS Map.
And I'm Alice Cook, the producer of AXS Map.
And hi, I'm Kevin Bluer, the lead developer on AXS Map.
So let's just jump right in. So this may be a surprising statistic, but actually 1 out of 6 people have a disability of some kind. I happen to be one of those people. I have primary progressive multiple sclerosis. I was diagnosed in 2005, and I saw over the course of 7 years, I've gone from walking just fine to using a cane to a walker to a wheelchair to a scooter where I am today. And, you know, I'm a documentary filmmaker, as Eric said. I've been working as a documentary filmmaker for 10 to 15 years now. I made films on PBS, HBO. I had a film at Sundance. So it was natural for me. I decided to take the camera and turn it on myself and make a film. The film's called When I Walk. It was picked up by PBS. It'll be broadcasting on PBS next year. And it really goes through and shows my whole journey. Actually, the making of AXS Map is in the film. So that's the connection here. So let's go ahead and show a preview of the film.
I couldn't imagine my son being a depressed person because he was always up and about, laughing and smiling. He was just walking weird across the street, crossing the street at an angle.
We have a diagnosis. You have multiple sclerosis.
At least we can postpone him being in a wheelchair. And the doctor just looked at us point blank and said, no, he will be in a wheelchair soon.
We want problems that are consistent.
Even normal people have patterns that aren't quite as repeatable.
It was frustrating. Multiple sclerosis was taking over my life. I'm going to do everything in my power to make sure that it doesn't happen.
When you think your life is bad, think of situations like this.
Everything in your mind.
Hey, Jason.
Right next to her, Jason. Look down, Jason.
Getting a tattoo is nothing compared to MS. This is like child's play. We all have different struggles, but they're more similar than we think. So this is my neighborhood in the East Village. Before I was diagnosed with MS, you can find me waking up, going for brunch someplace. I'd catch lunch or dinner at a restaurant with a friend. I'd go to a bar or a club at night. Really, the world was my oyster, and New York was my playground. And then I got MS, and then I started slowly having trouble walking. So as my walking faded, my neighborhood faded, and then my community involvement faded as well. So during this time, I was inspired with the idea of AXS Map, and that's what happened. So what I'm going to do now is show you, I'm just going to jump right in, show you a little animation all about AXS Map. Hi, my name is Jason, and I use a scooter to get around. It's not so easy. I have trouble going to stores, finding bathrooms that are accessible, and meeting up with friends. Of course, I can call ahead, but many places say they're accessible, but really, they're not. There has to be a better way. So I had an idea. What if everyone could share all the accessible places they know? And what if all this was put on one map? And that map was available on the web and mobile phones. I call it AXS Map, an online and mobile app where anyone can search for accessible places or review them on their entryways or bathrooms. AXS Map opens up a whole new world of choices, and I can instantly find all the accessible places around me, where to eat, shop, grab a coffee, or get a haircut. Even if you're not in a wheelchair, you're invited to give ratings and contribute. AXS Map is powered by you. The more you review, the better it gets. For people with canes, walkers, or wheelchairs, even moms and dads with strollers. AXS Map is your ticket to mobility freedom. It's easy and free to use. Help make this world a more inclusive one. Join the movement today. Check it out, axsmap.com. Thanks. Now I'm going to pass it over to Kevin Bluer, who's the lead technologist for the project.
Thanks, Jason. Hi, everyone. As mentioned, my name's Kevin Bluer, the lead developer on AXS Map. So I'm just going to go through a few things. I'm going to start with a quick walkthrough of what we've built so far. Then going to take a step back just to show some of the design decisions we made in kind of building the product, talk briefly through the API and so on. Then jump to the kind of future, talk about kind of some of the upcoming releases and some of the concepts we'd like to put in sort of medium to long term. Okay, so this is the home screen of AXS Map. Kind of going from the top down, you can kind of see the two search boxes. So you can put in on the left the venues, so some of the examples that Jason mentioned. It'd be like restaurant, cafe, bar, etc. On the right, you can put in location, so your zip or postcode or street, whatever. And then in the middle, for now, we've just got the video, just because obviously, as you just saw, it's pretty nice. It kind of tells Jason's story pretty well. It kind of frames what the applications or the platform is about. We may change that over time, but it's there right now. And then on the right, we've got just categories, so you can kind of jump right into a specific place. This is the search results screen. So after you've done a search, on the left, you've just got the stars. There's other attributes which I'll come on to in a moment. The two ratings as you saw in the animation are getting in, which is obviously fundamental. If you can't get into a place, then nothing else really matters. Beneath that, we've got restrooms. So once you're inside, if you need to know how accessible the restrooms are, then that's there. They're the kind of two what we sort of found to be the two most important measures. On the right-hand side, you've obviously got a Google Map, which is great. That's very high level on Manhattan right now, but obviously typically you'd zoom in a lot lower than that. This is a venue page. So again, the two measures there, and then we've got a bunch of other attributes, which I'll come on to in a moment. In the top right, we've actually got the Google Street View, embedded, which is a great service. And I know Jason and Alice would use that and still do use that before going out to a venue. So now it's embedded right in the place. And the actual graphic up there, you can just see, I've just zoomed in on just a step. So just as an example, it's a pretty useful tool for just determining that. Below that, we've obviously got the aerial view. And then below all that, we've got the ratings from the individual contributors as well. So any additional comments and stuff, pretty straightforward. This is adding a review. So again, the same measure as you saw in the animation there. It's kind of nice, kind of big, chunky icons. Very visual, very easy just to click the stars. Now the attributes we've got going from left to right, and these are just kind of ones you light up. So if they're kind of the binary, if they're applicable. So we've got the spaciousness. So if the venue's kind of traversable inside the venue. We've then got quiet, so the volume inside the venue, whether there's disabled parking, whether they've got a disabled ramp, or a ramp for getting up, upstairs if they have stairs. We then have a second entryway as well, so whether there's an entryway that's not visible, from the primary entryway. And then on the far right, where there's braille. So again, if there's braille on the braille menus or on the signs and so on. And then below that, we've got comments. So just if there's any sort of tips or quirks about the venue that are not covered in those above attributes, then you can add additional things there. Just going to quickly show you a video that the guys have put together on how to rate, which is kind of quirky and gives you a bit of insight and a bit more detail on the rating system.
Hi, my name is Jason. I'm the founder of AXS Map. Today we're going to give you some tips on giving reviews. So, let's hit the street.
Hi, I'm AXS Map Scout Alice. Today Jason's asked me to give a review. I'm just about to stop here for a bite to eat, so let's take a look. So as you can see, this place is kind of amazing for accessibility. Huge entryway, totally flat, no lip here whatsoever, and no heavy door for anybody to open. I'm going to give this place 5 stars. So now that we're inside, I'm going to check a couple other features. The first thing I'm going to check is it spacious? This place is really spacious. Tap here to vote yes for spacious. The other thing I'm checking to see is if it's really quiet. It's a really great place. It's at the height of brunch, but it's still, the volume isn't too loud. I'm going to tap quiet. Now let's go check out the bathrooms. And this place, like Venture, looks amazing. Key is the door opens out. It gives enough space for someone using a wheelchair and an assistant to get inside. Notice that it has a bar here and 2 bars. Key, having 2 bars. The toilet is a decent height. The sink is a little high, but I'm still going to give it 5 stars. And that's it. That's my review. So that was fun. I also had lunch, and the food here happens to be amazing. So let's check out another place and give another review. Okay, so I'm going to stop in this shop. Looks like there's 1 step. I'm going to give it a 2 stars. But first, I'm going to check to see if they have a portable ramp. If they have a portable ramp, I'll give it 4 stars. Let's go inside. Okay, so I just asked this shop owner, and they don't have a ramp, so I've got to give it 2 stars. So Jason has another scout out giving reviews today. Let's check in with him.
Hi, I'm AXS Map Scout Steve, and I'm out giving reviews today. So I'm at this laundromat, and you can see that it's got 2 steps, so I'm going to give that a 1-star rating. So this place has got 1 step, so I want to give it a 2. Before I do, I want to check to see if it's got maybe a portable ramp or if it's got an alternative entrance. Okay, so they've just told me that there's a secondary entrance around the back, so let's go back and check it out and see how good it is. Okay. So you can see they've got an accessible door around here. So it's not clear from the outside, so I wouldn't give this a 5, so I'm going to give this place a 4-star rating. So this place has got 1 step, but I checked inside and they've actually got a ramp. So we're going to get it out and see what it looks like. Beautiful. Great. I'm going to give this place 4 stars. Okay, so I stopped by the hardware store, and they actually do have a ramp, but it's a bit steep. So instead of 4, I'm going to give it a 3-star.
So that was some examples of how to give reviews. Just to recap, that was a 1, that was a 2, that was a 3, the portable ramp was a 4, and that was a 5. Keep in mind, there's no wrong answer, and think like you're using a wheelchair or a scooter.
and have fun.
Okay, so just continuing with some of the screens that we put together, just to give you that insight. This is some screenshots from the mobile apps that we have. As you can see, it's kind of consistent with the design and style that we put together for the main web. Bigger emphasis on kind of categories. Also taking advantage of sensors. Obviously, I haven't got a map screen up there, but it will hone in based on where you are, of course. And then just on the right-hand side there, you can see the rating of the venue, again, consistent with the rest of the app. Just taking a step back, design, like when we sort of started building it, we just had a sort of bunch of goals in mind. So we're kind of obviously emphasis on simplicity and ease of use, of course, and broad appeals. You saw in that animation, trying to cover a range of use cases. Obviously, in Jason's case, being in a scooter, right through to anyone, being a mum with a stroller, kind of everything in between. From the interface perspective, you've seen the kind of colors there. We went for white on black, big fonts, bigger icons, and so on. So just, again, a big emphasis on kind of ease of use. We actually worked with a few different designers as well, including a fellow Googler, a guy called Rick Farrell. So I just wanted to say thanks to him for some of his insights, which were great. And these are some actual screenshots or some wireframes that we put together, some mock-ups before we actually started any building, and we actually made these interactive. So it's great for Jason and Alice to actually kind of play around and move around within the app. Obviously, just a pure simulation. Did that for the main web too. And then on the right-hand side there, you can see the kind of actual first mock-up that we got put together for the mobile web version. In terms of API and data, on the back end, we're using Google Places API, which has been great. As you saw as well, we're obviously using Google Maps and Street View, some great, really, really good services. And to be honest, we couldn't have built this without some of those. In terms of the data, kind of we capture and augment on top. It's been kind of interesting balance, and we sort of see it as a journey, not a destination, in so much that we're trying to get the balance between capturing the relevant information, to make to allow someone to determine whether it is accessible, but not overburdening reviewers as well. So not asking someone to say, okay, give me 50 different attributes, when you're adding a review. So it's sort of trying to strike that balance, and we certainly welcome feedback on that. And you'll see there's some points towards the end on how you can give that feedback. And finally, just in terms of our API, we've actually built an API as well. Right now, our app's consuming that API, and over time we intend to, as of right now, open that up to anyone else who wants to, is interested in consuming the data that we capture. From a build perspective, and I'm not going to go into any depth here at all. I mean, it's just for those that are technical in the audience. This is the technology stack that we've used. And in terms of testing, we actually, worked through with, obviously Jason and then other members of the community to get feedback kind of iteratively. And again, very much intend to do that as we, kind of evolve the app. And again, just to reiterate, and we'll say it throughout the rest of the talk about getting feedback from yourselves would be, fantastic. So in terms of upcoming release, it's kind of live today. We're just literally, today's almost like the launch of the first iteration. Beyond that, very soon we've got a new iteration coming, which is going to have photo uploads to allow people to take photos of key things in and around the venue. So be that the outside the doorway or the restrooms, which again, to add that kind of visual layer on top, which would be great. And then richer filters as well, so you can actually do a search for something like show me the available restaurants in my area that have Braille menus, for example. We've got an Android app coming really, really soon too. And then obviously just incremental sort of tweaks and fixes. And then bigger picture, just an insight into some of the sort of more conceptual things we'd like to do. Going from left to right, gamification is something we've been exploring. So adding kind of incentivization mechanics and game mechanics on top to actually encourage people to add reviews. In the middle, visualization as well. So as we build this data set, actually adding like visualization layers on top, so you can answer kind of questions. And there's one up in that screen. How accessible is my city? Or that could be how accessible is my neighborhood or my state or whatever. So some interesting things we could certainly start exploring there. And on the far right, we've got augmented reality. So kind of just different interfaces, again, on top of the data sets. We've just got a quick mock-up, which I'll show you now, which is pretty nice about how this could work.
Just to give some personal context to this, it'd be really. I'm having trouble with my hands right now. It would be really great to be able to hold up my phone and just see all the places around me that are accessible.
Yeah, so cool stuff. And we were talking with Eric about the Google is it glasses? Another cool thing that would be maybe an add-on down the line. So with that, I'm going to hand over to Alice Cook, who's the producer for AXS Map, to talk a bit about the future.
Thanks. So when I'm not out scouting for Jason, I'm producing AXS Map. First, and I'm going to cover the future in terms of how we're going to engage community and how we're going to really get data into the app. So Jason founded a nonprofit 3 years ago called AXS Lab. Our mission is to supercharge the disability movement, disability rights movement, to engage audiences, to playfully explore the disability experience. Story is important to us, as Eric said in the beginning. And kind of the mission behind the mission is to make the world a more compassionate, inclusive, and enriching place. So the first two big initiatives of AXS Lab are Jason's film, When I Walk, and then, of course, AXS Map. So one of the ways we think we're fulfilling our mission with AXS Map is trying to give disability a fresh identity for disability. So everyone's familiar with this. The symbol on the left is the international symbol for wheelchair accessibility. It references the hospital blue, sort of the medical model of the disability identity. And so for AXS Map, we wanted a new identity that reflected the crowdsourced, the empowered community of disability. So the idea was to use a strong yellow and give it a sportier, more youthful, just a fresher identity for disability. So these are our funders. We're so proud to be working with such a prestigious group of funders. Google Earth, as Eric mentioned, helped fund us, and that grant was administered by the Tides Foundation. Our largest supporter is actually a prestigious foundation in New York called the Nathan Cummings Foundation. They're really movers and shakers in the philanthropy world. They called AXS Map their Jeremy Lin of philanthropic endeavors, so we're really proud to be working with them. Fledgling Fund is behind us, and of course Sundance and PBS are behind the film When I Walk. So the future of AXS Map, how we're going to engage communities. The first thing is really populating the database, because it's not going to be a useful tool until we get a lot of data in. And the way we're going to be doing that is by holding community mapping days. So I'll tell you a little bit about that. We're also going to be encouraging accessibility. We want to encourage business owners to become accessible if they're not already accessible. And then the last one, we think that the thing that's really going to coalesce this as a movement is really about sharing stories and gathering stories from the community. So for business owners, we're going to be offering window stickers. This is like our first way of engaging business owners. And we think this is really going to be a fun way for business owners to distinguish themselves. They can put this in the window to show any wheelchair users passing by that they're accessible. Maybe their main entryway isn't, but they have an alternative entrance. The other really great thing is it's a form of market distinction. So they can show that they're socially responsible and this is something they care about. So our mapping days, our first mapping day was actually last year, May 12th, 2011, and that went well, but we were just using clipboards and going out across Brooklyn. So what happens on a mapping day? We bring together a group of volunteers. They meet in one place. We form teams, and then they fan out across the neighborhood, exploring the neighborhood on foot and inputting reviews on accessibility. And one of the really fun things we're doing on our mapping days is letting participants test drive a scooter. And I think able-bodied participants test drive a scooter just to experience what it's like to navigate the world using a scooter. So the vision is, in the next year, we would have 50, we're working to set up partnerships with big national nonprofits to set up mapping days. So we'd have, this is a mock-up that would be a page on the site to show there'd be 50 mapping days all across the country, and you could look here to find a mapping day near you to get engaged. The other thing we think is important is that this is a grassroots sort of movement, and the individuals can lead their own mapping days. We've already had some people reaching out to us who want to host their own mapping day, which is really exciting. And actually, it was just 2 weeks ago, a student from upstate New York named Matthew reached out to us and said that he wanted to lead a mapping day. We had a chance to video chat with him just a few days ago, and so we're going to share that video chat with you right now with Matthew.
Hi. My name is Matthew Ballo. I'm almost 18 years old. I am from Clarence, New York. which is a town outside of Buffalo. I go to school at Clarence Senior High. I like to read and watch movies. I also like to play computer games and board games. I also like to go to the mall near my house, bowling at my local bowling alley, and out to different restaurants. AXS Map could give me more freedom because it would help me know in advance what places in my community I would be able to go to, where I can drive myself around. It is important to me to be independent. I need a lot of help with my daily tasks, but one thing I can't do all by myself is drive and operate my wheelchair. I think AXS Map will help both people in wheelchairs and people who are with people in wheelchairs. Personally, it is frustrating when I cannot get around someplace for both me and whoever is with me. I would like to lead a mapping day. I think it will be fun to travel around my community and see where I can go. I also would like to do this because it will help other people in my community who are in wheelchairs and face the same challenges I do when they want to go out. Nice to meet you.
So that's Matthew, and we were so excited that he reached out to us, and we think it's a great example of how individuals can step up and lead mapping days. And we also think his story is a great story for showing why accessibility matters when you have such great challenges. And for Matthew, the one thing he can really do is drive and operate his wheelchair. It means a lot when he can get in a business or restaurant. So on that note, we're actually having a mapping day this Saturday in San Francisco, and we're inviting Googlers to attend. It's near SOMA at the 155 9th Street. The time, 12:15. You can RSVP to Jason if you're interested. Really thank you to Eric for coordinating this, and thank you to our other supporters at Google, the Google Earth team. Tanya Birch and Raleigh Seamster have been really supportive of the project, and I think we could open it up to questions. Yeah. Yeah, thanks.